Oh, all right. I thought let me try to get through this one quickly, because this is just a fight I wish wasn't happening. If this could go to a draw where nobody gets hurt, I would just be a happy camper and let both of them take over somewhere else, someone else. If I had a favorite old time fighter in this division and a favorite new time fighter in this division, they're fighting each other already. Giga Chikadze is easily my favorite fighter of 2020. I think Kevin Holland, I boosted him enough to the point where everybody already knew about him and I didn't want to talk about him anymore because I was hearing so much about him that, Giga is one of those people that, I was really trying to start that hashtag in that chat, Giga, because he's hella exciting, man. I think that both him and Cub Swanson are just going to bring an absolutely crazy striking battle to this fight. Now, I'm going to get into Giga because, like I said, he's probably one of my favorite fighters coming out of 2020, if not my favorite, because I couldn't shut up about Kevin Holland and enough people started talking about him. But let me talk about Cub Swanson because, I'm still hunting for that killer Cub shirt and all those different colors. If I could have 6 of those in different colors, I'd be a happy camper. But, this man is just one of the greatest fighters to ever grace the UFC, WC, whatever. And I'm going to break it down why. For one, big shout out to Cub. He lost his longtime manager and friend, Kami, big part of his family. And in 30, I think the number was 37, but in those number of fights, this will be the first fight that Cub does not have Kami in his corner. And I know that's going to be a very emotional experience for him and his family. And I can only imagine what something like that really feels like when you have to actually still go into the cage after becoming so used to something and having that kind of support. And let's talk about some of the things that's happened to Cub, right? First of all, the biggest factor of his career that I want to touch on, when you go through his UFC career before the Shane Burgos and Renato Moicano fights, every single loss on his career is either a ex-champion or someone who has fought for a belt. Every single loss before the Moicano and Shane Burgos fight. So that's a crazy stat when you think of the guys that he's fought in his life. There's only one person to finish him clean strikes. And I'm going to let you guess who that was. Yes, Jose Aldo. Ding, 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 ding. He's fought everybody, right? If you date back to the WEC days and count those as UFC fights, which I do because they did not have weight classes for the small weight classes, and 99% of the fighters that you loved that came into the UFC in those weight classes were from the WEC. Shout out Dominic Cruz. And so when you combine his WEC fights with his UFC fights, he actually falls in and around that top 10 of total UFC fights with Gleison Tibau and Frankie Edgar. You look at what happened to him with the Jake Shields grappling match. That was something where, Jake Shields talked about how he could hear the pops and stuff like that, and he got off him the moment he could. And, people say it's a controversial, finish there with the knee move that he pulled off. But at the same time, even though the IBJJF doesn't really, count for that, I think that if it's not in the rules, things like that, you can't really harp on the fighter or the grappler for that situation. In this case, Cub had a long recovery after that. That was an ACL injury. People were calling for 9 months, stuff like that. So think about what Cub's going through at that point. 9-month layoff, Kami passing away. So going into this fight, it was massive. And I can't wait to get into this one because I think I'm going to blow a load, but I didn't mean to say that. And my favorite part about that Pineda fight, so we just talked about it, right? The Jake Shields injury, layoff, coming into this fight. Now we know this was the last fight Kami was even in the corner for him. And how amazing was that performance, okay? So you see him basically taking all the leg kicks in the world to that busted leg, no problem. You can see the damage. He keeps coming. Even at the end of the first, Cub starts to land some power blows and Pineda's feeling that power. He starts to feel it real bad. Round ends. Probably a pretty close round, and now, if you're a Cub fan and you're watching this second round, I'm sorry. If you're not out of your seat, I don't know what the hell you were doing during that round. But I was almost in tears when that fight ended because you can basically see in that moment where Cub does start to land. It's absolutely insane, but, he switches to southpaw in the second round. And then, just to protect the knee. And the corner was begging for Pineda to just attack that injured leg because they could see that Cub was coming alive. And, He defends a takedown, comes out of that, works his way out of the fence with punches, and then just lands the cleanest blow. Just the cleanest. It was just the biggest uppercut. Then it was the left, right, and just, oh, it was the greatest moment a Cub Swanson fan or a Cub Swanson family member or a friend or whatever could ever experience. And, the fact that he came back from that and the fact that he pulled off the win the way he did, it's just one of the greatest stories that I feel like no one's really talking about in MMA, which really deserves such a pat on the back because, Cub's been doing this for a very long time. And to be honest, he's probably my top 10 fighters of all time because of the things that I've seen him do. And so to see him get that win, for that to be the last fight that he had Kami in his corner, I just can't believe how happy I am for him. And this is the one where it's going to make or break, right? He's playing gatekeeper now against the guy. Now I can go off on Giga a little bit. He's a guy that I absolutely love, and I've been going off about him for so long, the 5-0, and I think that's why I get to harp on him just a little bit, because before the Dana White Contender Series, he participated in the Gladiator Challenge. And I got to say, when I'm really into this opponent record kind of thing in terms of analysis, Giga's got one of the worst I've seen, because in the Gladiator Challenge, the World Series of Fighting opportunity that he got as an MMA fighter, because he's primarily a kickboxing fighter, he jokingly said, the guy hugged me for so long, I thought he loved me more than my wife did. And so he got that fight as the first loss in his pro career, but then he goes to Gladiator Challenge to pick up where he left off as an MMA fighter. And so the first fight he takes on a guy who's 0-1, gets the win. And then, it's just crazy to see. Goes up against a debutante and then a 1-24 combined opponent record. And I'm not joking. Like, one of these guys was 0-13 and the other guy was 1-10. And those were the fights that kind of propelled him, got the Dana White Contender Series shot. And so that Austin Springer fight, he kind of got a little tired towards the end. I thought he was doing great work in the beginning. He's got power for days. He's definitely looking like one of the best kickboxers we've got in the UFC. He switches stance to southpaw to throw that beautiful Giga kick, right? That power body kick. Boom. It's like a gun that gets thrown off. And those are the things that Cub's going to want to look out for, right? Because a lot of those power shots to the legs, to the body, that's where Cub, I think, can, very much lose this fight, especially over 3 rounds. He's got to really push that pace forward. He's going to have some speed. He's going to have some creativity, footwork, those things. That's what's going to play into his favor. And now, if Cub's feeling really, really hunky-dory about his wrestling and his grappling, this is the fight to take advantage of it, because I think Giga has proven his striking ability. His takedown defense has been there in the UFC, but this is the toughest fight of his career. And if Cub's able to bring that game, I think it's going to pose a little bit more of a problem than Giga thought, because even that Austin Springer fight where he was pretty much winning the fight, in my opinion, in that 3rd round, you kind of saw him getting a little tired, and then Austin just took the back, got the choke, and was able to pull off that victory. Now, funny enough, Giga goes back to his Gladiator Challenge friends, and, 2-31 after those 2 fights were the combined opponent record. So just to kind of clarify all of that, the combined opponent record of that Gladiator Challenge experience that include 2 debutantes is 3-56. So when your combined opponent record is 3-56, but you go 5-0 in the UFC, tell me that is not the biggest outlier in using combined opponent records in determining UFC success you've ever seen in your entire life. Because it sure as hell is that for me. I couldn't believe it when I did the numbers on this. And again, King's MMA is a new home for this guy. And I think that when you look at everything he's putting together as a UFC fighter, we're seeing the development there. We're seeing that those guys were just in the bad place, wrong time. Who knows who Giga would have been taken on no matter what, because the trajectory of success and improvement is all there. And I think that's where Cub, in terms of everything we just, couldn't stop talking about, all of his good and all of his heart and all that kind of stuff, he's getting a very serious, powerful kickboxer coming his way. And I think Giga's going to have the ability to really land those power shots if this doesn't go up against the fence and it doesn't go, down to the ground. And Cub is usually the guy that's looking for those quicker shots, great combos, very creative, can switch the stance, like we said, was able to protect the leg against Pineda. So those are the little things that I'm very excited about. And so we'll see how that goes in the long run. But outside of that, probably my favorite fight in the card. I wish they didn't have to fight, but they will. Good Lord, let's look at this. Giga Chikadze opened up a -238 favorite against Cub as this +175 dog. And I mean, let's be real. I'm not I mean, I would have been shocked if that was the line right now. And it's a lot closer now at the -170 and the +145, +130 range. And I think this is a bit more fair. I think Giga is bringing this very, very powerful style kickboxing to the UFC. I think that having a finishing move like the Giga Kick always brings a little bit extra boost in both the betting and fanfare and all that stuff. And Cub Swanson's one of the guys that are aging. He's coming off these things like losing his friend and manager, and a lot of these bigger style injuries that he was able to look really good against Pineda, but he's going to carry that over against Giga Chikadze, who's a lot more powerful and probably a much better kicker and kickboxer overall. So exciting fight. Praying that these guys stay healthy after this and it's nothing too crazy, but probably one of the most exciting fights of 2020. For any big fan of either one of these guys, and I can't wait.